My name is Brian Bayless. I'm from the 22nd Space Operations Squadron, and my current job is I'm in mission integration for the AFSCN. The one thing that we usually quickly found out that we could do a lot from space in order to make sure that we protect our troops. There's an old adage in the Army, when in doubt, send a scout. We were trying to go ahead and say our scouts live up in space 24/7. Those scouts will always be on that wall looking down to make sure that we protect those guys. That was the one thing that we tried to do. The problem that we quickly found out in the first Gulf War, the amount of information that you can glean off a satellite is huge. So we were overwhelming the leadership of saying, guys, what's really going on? Because, and think about this, you can take down a video feed and you can take down megabytes of data. Now someone has to go through all that data and find out exactly what's going on. That's why when we first went into the war, Colin Powell says, expect the first casualty list to come in at about 10,000. We were going up against the third toughest army in the world. And we came back and says, guys, our numbers were a whole lot less. One, they weren't prepared as much as we thought. Two, they made some terrible mistakes. And three, our technology overwhelmed them. It was at the point, and I had a Asian brother-in-law was actually in. It was at the point that the enemy was sleeping 300 yards away from their tanks at night because they knew that those things, even at night, were a glowing target and they were easy to find and kill. We actually, and the Gulf War, in 1992, we got off the paper chart, okay? That paper chart was handling about 280 contacts at the time. And there's, I was fortunate enough, or maybe, unfortunate enough, in order to be actually on the paper chart. An hour of schedule was 6 inches. 2 hours was a foot. We had 84 feet for one whole week. And we would go through Chart Pack that provided all the tape. And the only reason I know this is I was in charge of the bench stock. Chart Pack that would provide that, we were their biggest customer. We spent $78,000 every year in getting paper tapes for the chart itself. The paper chart was the cowboy days of space. That's when, I mean, you would do things and a little story. We had a guy go up to Reno in a casino. He goes into a bathroom and there's a piece of that chart tape on the ground in the restroom. Now, that was a lost contact, okay? Somebody had missed that piece of paper and it would go ahead. And that would happen if you would lean on the chart or anything else. That butcher block paper, it lasted since from 1960 all the way up to 1992, handled a lot of contacts. It was bulletproof. It was everything but fireproof. But the problem was it was not accurate. Now keep in mind that if in fact you make a mistake on a inter-range operations number, you have just tasked the wrong vehicle at the wrong time and you're going to go ahead and miss its primary and secondary mission objectives. So what our job was to make sure that that chart was 100% correct. On our best night, we had 18 errors. On our average night, we had 64. When we would have a vehicle emergency, you would sit there and literally work at that schedule. And I've seen schedulers, just by making a human error, get off on the wrong RTS. And if you're on the paper chart, you may be saying Guam, but you're putting everything at Hula. And the problem with that is the supports at Hula aren't the same ones at Guam. So the Guam RTS would call up and says, guys, you're double booking an antenna. What's going on? And then he figured out he was putting the vehicle emergency in at the wrong site that was wide open, but the vehicle emergency did not have visibility at that site. So at that point, you're sitting there, you were delaying the satellite flyer from getting on the vehicle itself in order to move it down. So we would then sit and say, hey guys, all those changes are wrong, and come back, because we would literally print out the schedule and they would have to make sure that people maintain the integrity of the network tasking order through all of the phone calls that we'd make. In one night, I saw 860 phone calls be made in a 4-hour period trying to keep people up on the changes to that paper chart because no one else had it. When we would go ahead and actually build that paper chart, we would have to do board checks. And you can imagine the board checks. You're trying to clear up every error. So you would do multiple board checks. And then when you got done with the board checks, you'd have to integrate that into the computer system. So that integration, if you got off on the wrong side, now the support's on the wrong side. Because even though it was on the right side in the paper chart, It was on the wrong side of the message. So when you went to implement that, they're sitting there saying, guys, wait a minute. They're on the wrong side of the RTS. Why? Because instead of hitting an A, you hit a B. And there's the error. And so we were trying to figure out a way, hey guys, how can we go ahead and get rid of those errors? We transitioned during the Gulf War to an electronic system. It's called Astro. That system allowed us to go ahead and to get our error rate down. So we went on in essence, a prototype system, not really tested, but the war threw us into, guys, we got to use it and we got to use it now. When we did that, we stood up dual nodes. Not only was Onizuka Air Force Station, which is out in Sunnyvale, California, not only were they up, but we were up. So we had double manpower on that system to make sure that nothing else was missed. That was the one thing that we did have, is we had 2 hot complete backups at 2 different nodes working together. And what that did is the newer guys, which were out here at Schriever Air Force Base, and the old heads, old guard out at Onizuka, ensured that our error rate was down to almost 0. And so we knew, guys, we got to transition off this thing. A lot of people didn't know if they could go ahead and transition off that paper chart. It was one of the best things that we did. Now with the new system, we go ahead and make a change. It goes out to everyone, electronically. They see it and it's like, guys, I've got the changes instantaneously. And now we're looking at going to another new system. Now, everyone knows that when ATM cards came out, because in essence we have an ESD 3.0, an ATM system with multiple people in the same bank accounts, and it locks people and opens people, so to make sure that we maintain integrity of all the changes. So what it does is it gives every SOC out there, there's 23 programs out there, that'll sit there and say, guys, I now can go ahead and make the changes that I need to make sure that I'm the most effective and efficient possible. Keep in mind that when people get efficient, we save resources. Save resources, you save money, and you save time. When you save time, we do a better job.